What's going on, everybody? It is yours truly, OK Faye, part of the Horny Goat channel, the Horny Goat Podcast Network. And this time we're back for another edition of the Marvel Roundtable as we break down every movie and show in the MCU. On this week's episode, we're going to go into a movie that, again, has a unique place in Marvel Cinematic Universe history. It's the only, so far, solo Hulk film, the only appearance of Edward Norton. And, well, it's simply incredible. Let's break down the 2008 Incredible Hulk. Welcome, one and all, to another edition of the Marvel Roundtable, of course, right here on Horny Goat channel and, of course, the Horny Goat Podcast Network. Thank you so much for tuning in as we're going to discuss an interesting movie this week as we break down everything and anything pertaining to the MCU. You guys know me. I'm OK Fabe. And join me on this esteemed roundtable this week. I've got the one and only fantastic one himself, Ray Sean. What's going on, Ray Sean? Oh, and, of course, he's muted.
Yep.
Oh,
I cannot hear anything. Now you're not. Now we can hear you.
Oh, okay. I'm going to do this again.
Okay.
What's up, everybody? How's everybody doing?
Listen, it's a common thing that most of the times when I run a stream or some sort of thing, there's always some sort of technical difficulty, so you're all in the good. And, of course, we've got the power couple, or at least one half of the power couple right now, JP and Heather. Heather's joining in. What's going on, JP? How you doing?
It's been an interesting day, to say the least. I'm not going to go into details, but it's been an interesting day, to say the least. And I'm looking forward to this because this is the first time I've seen that version. I thought we were talking about the other one. Because I get them two mixed up.
Oh, yeah, we'll get into the details about that, yeah.
But he should have died within the first half hour of the fucking movie. He should have fucking died 3 minutes into the movie. So the reason that I do these things is because I'm not a huge fan of Marvel. I'm not a huge fan of superheroes. So I'm giving my perspective. Now I'm going, and throughout this thing, I'm going to put it the way I say. I'm going to shit on things, but there are some things that I do not mind. Now, we'll get into it when we start this. You're going to understand why I am shitting on it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to these because it forces me to watch the movies. I've seen them all, most all of them, just not all of them.
Put a gun to your head. And of course, Heather, how are you this evening?
I'm okay.
Short, sweet, and to the point.
She's fine.
Of course, I want to thank
everybody.
He doesn't
have talking to the both of us most of the time anyway.
Of course, we've got everybody joining us. We got everybody joining us in the chat as well here live on Horny Goat YouTube channel. So if you haven't subscribed already, make sure you do so because we're dangerously close to trying to get to 500 subscribers. We're about around 150 or so. But you can also catch us on your favorite podcasting platforms. You can check out this show and No Bucks Given, which is our fun little weekly discussion. This week's No Bucks Given got very I don't want to say heated, but it got very, that's thank you. That's probably the best way I could probably describe it. And if you guys haven't checked out the last episode where we did talk about the original Iron Man movie, Ray Sean's favorite, make sure you guys go check it out. We were joking. I could just see him like shaking his head like, no, God damn it.
No.
In the recap, he should have died. The Iron Man, Tony Stark should have died a half hour into the movie.
That's gonna be JP's thing every single
time.
The
entire universe should have died half an hour into their movies, according to JP.
Well, of course. Well, I'm a realist.
You just see the logo and then the end credits going. It's that easy. So, want to give some love to Alpha in the chat. Tim, of course, our good friend Gorilla Strong. Good to see you, Gorilla. Thank you guys all for tuning in here as we're going to talk about this movie. So, as I mentioned before, we're going to deep dive into all these ones and. We'll talk a little bit about the pre-production, then we'll get to the actual story and the actual movie itself. And it's interesting because we actually all got together to watch this together in a kind of like a private watch along, which was kind of refreshing in some ways because with Iron Man, we kind of all watched it separately and then we came together. This one, we actually sat down and we were able to, and we'll talk more about this when we get into it because JP brought some really interesting tidbits to it, as did everybody actually, while we were actually in the process of watching the movie. So it was interesting to see how things are going to play out with the discussion with this. But Now, the weird thing about this movie is, of course, we're still in the early stages of the MCU. This is technically the second movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I say technically because there's other weird parts of it. And again, it's going to be a little confusing because it's not as like streamlined, say, as like it is now, with Disney owning the rights to pretty much everything Marvel and everything kind of all flowing a little bit better. From this point on, for the most part, everything else is going to flow a little bit more easily as far as connectivity, character stories, etc. There's going to be some exceptions for sure, but you get the idea. The reason this one is in particular is very bizarre is because, number one, it is technically considered a sequel to the original 2003 Ang Lee movie, which is what I think JP was mentioning before, with Eric Bana as Bruce Banner. That's not confusing. Which had like the funky like comic book like style where you had like different animated panels. It was very, I guess it was like Adam West kind of style with like the POWs and like it was a very visually interesting movie. So this is not technically an origin movie. In fact, we were talking about this before when we started, that if you watch the movie's opening credits, they basically explain how everything happens, which I think at this point, Hulk is probably, at least this time, the number 2 most popular Marvel character, right next to Spider-Man. Again, so far. Iron Man will eventually get his popularity, much to Rayshawn's happiness, a little later on. But
he deserved any type of popularity.
I can't wait to dissect that with the Avengers with you when we get there. But
oh
but
Civil War though.
Oh, that's gonna be some fun. We got some good ones coming. We got some good ones. Actually, that's gonna be probably my favorite to talk about. But anyway, so obviously we have Edward Norton taking over the role as Bruce Banner, which will be the second person as far as a major movie taking it over, but he won't be the last one. And it's interesting because going through the production notes about this, or like the idea of like, behind all this, is that the first Hulk movie in 2003 had mixed reception, right, with Ang Lee, and so Marvel Studios reacquired the rights to the character, although Universal has the rights to distribute it. So kind of like the Sony Spider-Man deal, which again we'll get to a little later on. But the bottom line is this is kind of one of the reasons why you don't see Hulk in its own standalone movies going forward from this into the MCU, is because Universal still technically has the rights to it. It's a weird process because, as we talked about before in the Iron Man one, Marvel was on the verge of bankruptcy in the 90s, and so to kind of desperately hold on to itself, it sold the rights to movies for a bunch of its characters and basically was like, it was a garage sale. Everybody take everything. So Fox had the X-Men, Deadpool, and the Fantastic Four. Sony got Spider-Man. I think New Line Cinema got Blade, and they were kind of scattered throughout. And so Hulk went to Universal. And so this is why... this is one of the many reasons we'll get into later, why there are no more, or are so far anyway, any standalone Incredible Hulk movies, at least going forward. Now, what's interesting to note is, obviously, if you are a fan of the Incredible Hulk or know of, especially the original TV series, there are a shit ton of Easter eggs in this, which we'll get into as we progress through. JP made a note that he's like, and Heather also made a note too, and Basement as well, who isn't with us this week, but we'll have him on, I'm sure, in the future. But there's so many interesting things about this, and now it's interesting because this is, technically speaking, the lowest grossing film in the MCU out of all the movies, which, again, Disney did not buy Marvel until I believe it was either 2009 or 2010. 2010, thank you, Heather. So we're still in that weird, we're not sure what we're doing phase. It's college. It's the college years of the MCU. We're experimenting and just trying to see what we kind of like. But of course, the big elephant in the room is Edward Norton. Edward Norton this is the first and only time we see him as his role as Bruce Banner. And the primary reason, unfortunately, is kind of depending on who you ask. Edward Norton said it was a pay dispute. Kevin Feige,
everybody else on set says diva mentality.
Right. So
Edward Norton had an issue making this movie?
No.
What was the deal? I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
No, it's okay. So supposedly and allegedly, because there's three sides to every story, one side, the other side, and the truth. Edward Norton claimed it was over a pay dispute. However, people who have worked with Edward Norton claim that when he gets involved into a role, likes to kind of take the reins creatively and and twist things and do things his own way, which is admirable. But at this time, Kevin Feige was really getting his hands involved with everything. Obviously, we're in the early stages of it, and so they obviously had a bigger long-term goal and vision for everything, and they felt that him being a part of it was going to be butting heads and be a problem, which, given how this goes and how things go, makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense. So I guess the couple of questions I want to first throw out there to Rayshawn, Heather, and JP. Knowing all this, I'll be totally honest. I liked Edward Norton better than I like Mark Ruffalo.
Oh yes,
bingo.
Yes.
The only thing that I will say is I like Edward Norton. I think he's a great actor. But at times he just, how do I say this?
To me, Edward Norton sometimes
he sometimes overacts.
Yes.
He tries giving an Oscar performance when an Oscar performance isn't exactly needed. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I noticed that last night. He's really and it's good that he's involved with the character. He's invested. He's invested into that character. I just sometimes thought watching the movie that at times he was trying to win an Oscar for no reason whatsoever.
You mean Edward Norton?
Yes.
Who did I say?
No, just making sure I understood you correctly.
Yes, Edward Norton.
Yep. Okay.
That's all I'm saying. I love him as an actor, but sometimes he just tried pushing.
He turns on the acting a little.
Just too much. Like the emotional scenes, he's like, I need to cry. 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 And he doesn't need to cry. But it's just the way I look at it.
What about you, Heather?
I'm in the same boat. Edward Norton. Everything Edward Norton has done, even up to the Hulk and after the Hulk, everything he's done, it's always been, I need to be this emotional, or I need to be this stoic, or I need to be this stone. And it's just like, just play the role as it is read in the script.
I mean, with this character, yes. So, and I'll use American History X as an example of how good of an actor this guy is. If you have not seen that movie, go watch it, because he plays a skinhead or a Nazi sympathizer who goes to prison for protecting his family. I mean, he went a little overboard with the way he killed the guy that broke into his house, who happened to be an African American. But his acting, he needed to act the way he did. Mm-hmm. But in this movie, he just needed to be Bruce Banner. If you go watch Bill Bixby, who played in the series, he played it perfectly, I thought.
Right.
I wish he would have been able to play the character if he was a little younger, because I thought he was Bruce Banner. He was Bruce Banner.
I mean, it kind of leans in, and so when you hear that about like, overdoing it or getting too involved with the role, it kind of lines up. I mean, Rayshawn, you kind of like immediately jumped up when I said that, and I know we're kind of, I know we said with these discussions of these movies, we're trying to like self-contain them and judge them on their own, not knowing in the future, but just because this is the only time we're going to see Edward Norton in the MCU as far as we know. Yeah, you like jumped up immediately, like you're like, thank you.
As far as I could remember, this is the only Edward Norton film that I've ever saw him in. I probably saw him in other films and not knowing, because I'm not into like knowing the actors and all that. Whatever. I just.
Did you ever watch Fight Club?
You ever see Fight Club?
I have.
He's in that. He's the main character in that movie.
See, I didn't even know that was. But
that's another one of those movies you don't notice him, but he's there and he is the main character, so he is that guy, and he plays that well. But in this movie, he just needed to be Bruce Banner. He didn't. What I mean by that is he didn't need to overact, which he did at moments here. Go ahead, Rayshawn. I'm sorry.
With the overacting, I could understand where you're coming from, especially in the factory film, which is like the scene, which is the first scene when the guys was hitting on that girl whatnot, and he walked by, and then he had this face like, oh, you like, that's my woman. First of all, that's not your woman. I guess. He had that face like, oh, that's my woman or that's my sister or whatever the case may be. Like he wanted to fight. He was ready to fight. And then when he walked up to them and talked, the way he looked didn't sell. I mean, the way when he started talking, it didn't sell his look. You know what I'm saying? So it was like he kind of did overact in that part, and I see where y'all coming from with the overacting.
What's ironic to sorry, go ahead, Rachel. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think he did a decent job in this film.
He did a great job. I just sometimes he had moments of overacting and trying to win an Oscar when he was never going to.
Right. I never looked at it like that.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. I mean, I find it a little ironic because, to me, Edward Norton fit physically, he fit the bill of Bruce Banner more than what Ruffalo will be. And I don't know if it's because Ruffalo has such a outgoing personality in real life. I don't know. It's just something about I feel like Norton from the comic, if you're the comic adaptation perspective, which I get, Marvel MCU will tweak its own versions to certain things and certain characters, as we'll find out later on, some for better and some worse. I just felt like as far as accuracy, Norton fit the bill a little bit more than Mark Ruffalo did. And I've seen 100%. Yeah, but it's funny because I agree with everything you guys are saying about him getting too into a moment or too over the top when he didn't really need to be. And that's kind of the premise of the Bruce Banner character, which is the ironic part of the whole thing.
Well, the Mark Ruffalo character, and I'll say this real quick, I know we'll get to him, but the Mark Ruffalo character was he was like the little brother over in the corner where if you touch me, don't touch me. That's the kind of guy he seemed like in this fucking movie when he is the biggest, baddest motherfucker in the whole fucking thing.
Yeah.
And he acted like a fucking vagina half the time.
That's where I was going to go. Ruffalo, he is a great actor. Yes. But with this role, he took it to more of that guy who is afraid of what he is.
I am sensitive. Be sensitive to my needs. That's the guy he is. Go ahead. I'm just being a smart ass. Go ahead.
He's playing the guy who is afraid of what he is underneath instead of letting the scientist be the scientist. Mm-hmm. Whereas with Edward Norton, you got the scientist, but you also got the Hulk.
And again,
piggyback. I'm sorry. Can I piggyback on what you said?
Yeah, go for it.
I feel that with the Mark Ruffalo character, I think they was continuing the fact that Bruce Banner didn't want the Hulk. He was scared to let the Hulk come out of him. You get what I'm saying? So they took that point of view and made Mark Ruffalo soft.
Well, that was Bruce Banner's whole thing, if I remember correctly. Yes. He didn't want to be who he was.
Right.
But then they pretty essentially, and we'll get to it, Infinity War, I think it was Infinity War, where he just fucking it was Endgame, where he just fucking accepted it, and he just acted like the Hulk all the time.
Right. And again, going back to this one might be the filibuster to the rule of the, we're trying not to talk about the future movies and what we know is going to happen, but because the Hulk is such a unique character in the placement of the MCU, especially after this, he basically becomes a side character or a supporting actor. I couldn't think of the word. And so you guys are completely right. So it's tricky because there is sort of character development, but it's all in the background of the other heroes that are going to get more screen time. Now, you could look at that of two ways. It could either because there really isn't a whole lot with the Hulk, which character-wise, development-wise beyond that, which I think is a little horse crap personally. I think there's enough lore and characterization amongst everybody in Marvel that you can do all sorts of stuff. I mean, look at all the series they're coming out with at the time of this recording. Moon Knight is right around the corner, and I'll be honest, not a whole lot I know about Moon Knight, but you bet your ass I'm going to do a lot of research going into it. But on the other hand, it could go back to that Universal deal where you know, oh, they don't think that it's worth necessarily the investment to do another standalone Hulk movie when you have the opportunities to kind of placate this. And we'll probably go a lot more into this when we get to Thor Ragnarok, because I think that's probably the best example of exactly what we're talking about here. But that being said, we'll get more into the Ruffalicious Ruffalo and the Avengers and the future stuff. I did want to point out real quick though, I know I saved this earlier. We had a comment posted in the chat when we first posted up. Mecha Sandwich, good old user Mecha Sandwich. He did say he thought Ruffalo sucks. Edward Norton was great. He says the movie actually gets the character right, so kind of in line with what we were talking about. Real Cody in the chat just said Ruffalo done a good job as the Hulk, in my opinion. It's not that I don't think we're saying that he did a bad job. It's just that I think as far as a preference, and I don't want to speak for everybody here, that we thought Norton in a lot of ways hit the nail on the head as far as the character more than Ruffalo. But again, I think it's tough because at this point going forward, Hulk is a supporting character. Good with everything.
So what I want everybody to understand, we're talking about the Incredible Hulk. Because Edward Norton may have played I don't know if they did the thing that they did with Mark Ruffalo with the green screen or the fucking digital shit or whatever, the CGI or whatever.
They did.
I don't know if he played. Okay, so he did? Okay, so Edward Norton, if you look at how Mark Ruffalo did it, and I think that was more direction than it was actually Mark Ruffalo saying, well, I'm going to do it this way, which is kind of why I like what Edward Norton wanting to be involved. He separated, and here, listen to what I'm saying. I'm not saying, again, Mark Ruffalo did a pretty good job because I have seen all the movies. I'm going to say that he separated the Hulk and Bruce Banner. When Bruce Banner was doing the acting, it was sometimes over the top. I'm talking about Edward Norton here. He sometimes did the overacting. When he was the Hulk, it was great. Because it was the fucking Hulk. I don't remember the Hulk ever being one of those guys. And but we'll get into all the callbacks and shit, and I'm sure, and some of the other things. But I'm just, don't think that we say, especially me, when I say Mark Ruffalo was like the doint guy, I think that was more the director saying, you need to be sensitive. You need to be a sensitive character. But why? He's fucking a 1,500-pound green guy who's angry all the time. That makes no sense to me.
Like
and we'll get into that when we get to those fucking movies, because
it's like that joke of, what do you, 15-pound gorilla with a machine gun and a tree. What do you get him? Anything he fucking wants. So let's get into the actual thick of the story here itself and kind of break down, kind of scenes and sections of this movie. So as we mentioned earlier on, and this is actually something I actually think was genius, because again, this is technically a sequel, because we have actors like William Hurt coming back to play Thunderbolt Ross, which one of my favorite characters in the MCU, to be honest with you, and we'll talk about him a little bit later on. But we do see in the opening credits the kind of flashback to everything. A very brief synopsis of exactly, you don't have to know everything about the Hulk, but I mean, let's face it, if you saw the first movie, the Ang Lee 2003 version, it was very flat in the sense of it was him getting his powers and then him hiding. Like that was more or less, yes, he had his dad who was confusing, but the point is that what I appreciated was you got the gist of everything right from the get-go, and it wasn't like a narration either. It was all visual. So it's like, cool, you see Edward Norton in the chair, the green cross examination, you see him transform, and I think in the shadows and whatnot, but you pretty much get the idea. So it jumps head to 5 years later, and we see him, he's now working at a bottling factory in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, while attempting to search for a cure, obviously, for his condition, which lines up with kind of following up with the first one, and obviously his character pretty much this entire movie, at least at the beginning. We see him in collaboration with someone via the internet. God, seeing 2008 laptops are fucking weird. Who he referred to as Mr. Blue. So you don't know who this anonymous person is, but you know he's trying to like help him find a cure. He sends him flowers. He sends him all sorts of different things to try out different test methods on himself. You even see him using a microscope to see if like it's going to affect the blood cells, and nothing's working. So after he says to him, like, listen, I need to get, more data, you kind of get the idea, and you see him obviously pining off of Elizabeth Ross, who is not only Thunderbolt Ross's daughter, but also his love interest from the first movie. And she has or it's assumed that she has all the data on everything that happened in the experiment and everything that went wrong. We see him working at the bottle factory, and of course they're saying the same thing that everyone would say: "You're way too effing smart to be working here. I can put you on payroll," but he's like, "No, I'm good," because obviously he's trying to hide out. Banner then cuts his finger, and a drop of blood falls into one of the bottles, which I kind of bummed they didn't go anything further with this. But listen, I'll take a great Stanley cameo whenever I can. So of course the Stanley cameo in this one is that he is the one that drinks the bottle with the infected blood. We don't see anything come about it, but I thought it was at least a very cute moment. But I think it also reemphasized the fact of like.
Can I say something real quick? Can I say something real quick before you go on? When I talk about Edward Norton and his acting, this was one of those scenes where he way overacted the scene. He's like, "Stop! Panicking. Everybody stop what they're doing!" It's like, okay, dude, it's just a drop of blood.
Right. Well, I mean,
I get why he did it, but it was way over the top. Like, he just said, we need to stop the machine. That's all he needed to do, and then...
I was more surprised that they actually granted his request, not knowing what the hell he was talking about, because...
Well, he started speaking Spanish. He was like, bada, bada. That means stop in Spanish.
Oh, okay.
Well, no, but I think Conor's saying they kind of, okay, we'll stop it, but why? Why are we stopping? And then he's like, well, go ahead.
The manager was there when he cut his finger.
Right.
But so yes, they were confused. But the manager didn't like click like, oh, maybe the blood got into the beverages. You know, it is a health code violation. So
yeah, but they're also in Mexico and they don't get two shits in Brazil, so they don't get two shits about health code violations.
Well, they do, but I get what you're saying. I get what she's saying.
I wish they.
Sorry.
No, you're good. I kind of. The only thing I was gonna say was I kind of wish they did something more with this, but you know what? Obviously, we get more little things further on, and this is kind of maybe a precursor also to kind of what happens towards the end. But we'll get to that. But it was interesting because the bottle actually was the means that they were able to find out. Oh, hey, this guy had like gamma poisoning from this bottle in Brazil. And then Thunderbolt Ross, look for the only white guy that works in the factory, and I'm sure you'll find Banner there. Didn't know how to feel about that, but in any case, they of course hunt him down. I'm going to be skipping some of the more like minute parts of like the girl that we were talking about, like trying to save her, and which I thought was kind of okay, whatever. They do send special forces led by Ross and a new character who I'm trying to remember the guy's actual freaking name now that I'm trying to remember it here. Emil Blonsky. I couldn't think of the name of the guy. Emil Blonsky, who's kind of the lead of the whole thing. And of course, during this whole thing, he has a heart rate monitor, and we do see scenes earlier that Banner is trying to find ways to control his heart rate so that he is not able to get angry and go green. Unfortunately, he gets tracked down by some thugs. It doesn't work out. His heart rate goes above 200 while they're trying to capture him, and he transforms into the Hulk for the first time in this movie.
It was his coworkers.
Or sorry, his coworker. Sorry. The thing I loved about this scene, I actually said this to everybody while we were watching it, is that you didn't see the Hulk crystal clear at the beginning. Yes, we know what he looks like. Yes, we've seen it from other movies and film. Yes, we know what he's going to look like from all the teas, but just from a movie idea, I just like the concept of
building the suspense.
Yes, I like the idea of like
it's the shark effect in Jaws.
It's also, to me, it also reminded me a little bit of like old monster movies, where you see the blur, like, you know, whatever, the shadow or whatever, just something about the movie and that moment that I appreciated. But I mean, I don't know about you, but I felt like they like overtaxed his. I mean, I know he's the Hulk and he's super strong, but there are moments where I'm like, holy crap, is he really that strong?
Well, you gotta also remember he's 1,500 pounds taking on guys who are maybe 190.
No, I know. It's been a while since I've seen this movie. What's that?
Say it again.
Don't he get stronger every time the more he get angry? Because
I don't
know.
Yeah.
I don't
well,
think that's part of it.
Sort of.
Going I'm fast forwarding all the way to the fight. When he had that fight, he was getting his ass kicked because he was at a weak state of mind until something happened. He saw something, and it got him angry. He started.
You're talking about at the end of the movie,
right? But what I'm trying to say is that overall, he gets stronger when he gets more angry.
I can see.
I don't think it's more angry. I think it's he actually finds something to focus because he's still fighting between Hulk and Banner in his brain.
There she goes with her fucking New York accent.
So it's when he realizes that there is something going on that he needs to focus on. He focuses and becomes fully Hulk.
Right. Mm-hmm. So, and shout out real quick to not only the real Cody joining us, but Frank from The Harsh Truth. What's going on, guys? Thank you so much for tuning into the Frank, we should have you on one of these episodes for sure. This is where things get a little tricky because it depends on which version of the Hulk and which writer is writing the Hulk stuff. So from what I generally understood, it's yes and no about the anger thing. And they don't really go into a whole lot of detail in this movie. But for the sake of argument here, let's go with like basically Heather's right. As far as the way the movie's portraying it is that his anger is able to be focused because you don't really see him get... I don't really think you get him seem stronger in any of the movies actually going forward, where it's like you see him like, oh, he's even more mad and like his rage is increasing. In the comics that happens, but not necessarily in the MCU, which honestly, I'd rather prefer it that way. It makes things so much simpler from a writing perspective. But anywho, I'm just saying I like this part because, again, it reminded me like, you know, like JP said, the shark or, the shark rule in Jaws, or like Heather said, like he's in the shadows and the suspense in the end and the suspense and the buildup. I thought it was a smart move. I just, again, we all know what he looks like. We all know where it's going to go, but just little things like that I did appreciate. So now another part that we'll get into, we'll get into actually when we actually introduce this character, but of course Blonsky is like, what the fuck was that all about? And then of course Ross has to kind of generally explain what's going on, and Ross explains how Banner became the Hulk, basically, and this is paraphrasing again, splitting hairs depending on who you are, the writer. They mentioned the super soldier serum, which that's going to get tied into a bunch of other stuff later on in the future. They basically explain how the super soldier serum was created in World War II to create advanced beings or advanced soldiers, and that Bruce was basically involved in some sort of development in relation to it involving gamma radiation. And through divine science, because science, Bruce Banner absorbed the gamma radiation to protect the Thunderbolt Ross's daughter. Is it Liv? Yeah, Betty Ross. And ultimately becomes, Bruce Banner Hulk that we all know and love today. So,
her real name Elizabeth?
Her real name's Liv Tyler is the
No, not
actress.
The actress name. I'm talking about like in the movie. Sorry,
Betty Ross.
I don't know.
Betty.
She could possibly be.
I had to look it up. I thought it was Liv Ross too. I'm like, that's confusing. No, it's Betty Ross. Which sounds
Betty
like
Ross. There's an Easter egg right there.
Which sounds like a cooking line of cooking products.
Betty Ross made the first American flag.
Oh, that's right.
Oh.
That's
Come on,
right.
man.
That was one to reel in the history buffs.
Damn it.
And everybody says I don't pay attention to history. Get the fuck out of here. But go ahead.
No, you're good. So basically he explains kind of where things are, how the Hulk came to be. But he did mentions that, or Ross does kind of allude to, and we see kind of skipped ahead a little bit, that he has one of the soldier serums left. We'll get into more soldier serum stuff when we get much further down in the MCU. But the idea is that we're going to fight fire with fire, and they're going to give him a very small dosage and a very small amount of things. Now, before I get any further, because I do want to give JP a chance to talk about this, because there's a lot of military in this, obviously. That we have Thunderbolt Ross, we have Blonsky involved. We have so many different divisions of military. And again, it's Marvel, it's fantasy. I understand that. And I'm going to give JP the floor for a second because I know he kind of wanted to go on a little bit of not a tangent or a rant, but you know what I mean. But I'll let him.
Really, it's one of the fallacies, and it's not just with the MCU. I want everybody to understand that. But I do have one question real quick. The super soldier serum, you're talking about like Captain America.
Yes.
That shit, right?
Get to the
that had to do with one of the fucking stones. But anyway, this is where I find a flaw with the movie already. So if you have ever been in the military, and no, it has nothing to do with any of the vehicles in the movie. It actually has to do with the people acting. They're out of regs. And I get, and here's my thing. You have to understand where I'm coming from. I want stuff to be as real as possible if I'm going to buy into what is being presented to me. Just because I see these things, and I know I'm in the minority on this, but this is what turns... They would probably draw me in even more if they gave it a little bit more thought. The haircuts. You can't have haircuts like that wearing Class A's.
Right.
You can't. Them guys running around outside without wearing a hat. You can't do that. That is against the Army regulations. These guys, to be honest with you, are officers. Okay? At least show some semblance of research, or have an advisor on, and I don't know if they did, have an advisor on site like, dude, you need to cut your hair a little bit because that's not believable. To me, that's not believable. Also, some of the shit the soldiers were doing, like chasing, no soldier's just gonna fucking haul off and chase after somebody. I mean, who does, like, you have a 1,500-pound guy who could probably smash your face, and he could take your head and pull it out your fucking asshole. No soldier is gonna follow. Go get him. No, fuck you, motherfucker. I'm just gonna stand here and shoot him. My issue more was with the clothing was an issue for me because they're out of regs. The mustache that General Ross had, man, no general in real life actually walks around like that. So if you're gonna actually fucking, and this is my thing, and I get it's fantasy, like Conor said, you can't put some effort into it. It's like they made the Incredible Hulk the focus and didn't put any focus into all the other things, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you bring that up because what I was going to piggyback off on that one, saying that you make a good point that there are, especially, well, I mean, they're in all of them, but in this one particularly, there's so many references and Easter eggs to little things throughout the movie that you'd think they would have carried that over, especially for something that's such a pivotal, focus and point. So kudos to you on that one. Rayshon, were you going to chime in on something? I'm sorry.
No.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
You better not argue with me.
No, I wasn't saying.
No, it's good. But I mean, again, and this isn't just in the MCU. I see movies doing this all the fucking time. Right. They wear the name tag on the wrong side. I've seen that. I'm like, dude, that goes over here. Your name goes over your right, not over your left. It's just, and that some people, when they wear berets, they look like. Have you ever seen the movie European Vacation with Chevy Chase?
Yes.
Did you see how he put that hat on Rusty?
Yes.
Yeah, that's not how you fucking put a beret on. And I see fucking soldiers in movies doing that. If you're going to do something, do it right, or don't do it at all. That's all I'm saying.
I now know I'm probably never going to bring JP to a movie theater anytime soon. And they're shaking your head in the background.
The only movie I've ever gone to him in a theater is Star Wars, and that's because I know he's going to enjoy it as much as he can.
Smart move. It's a very smart move. So going into a little bit further in the story, Banner's trying to reunite with Betty Ross to try to get the data, to figure out what exactly is going on with him. At this point, he's been chased out of Brazil and he has nowhere to go. So at this point, he does reunite with Betty Ross, but he's trying to hide out in, like, I guess a friend of his pizza place. It's not really important. The point is that she finds out that he is there, and he tries to get the data without having her notice or having her involved. That obviously doesn't work out. And lo and behold, she reunites with him, even though she has moved on with another boyfriend. But it all comes to a head where he is trying to escape and leave. And of course, it's that big scene outside of Culver University where we see the military does catch up, and we do see him transform into the Hulk for the second time in the movie, but actually for the first time in its entirety in Hulk form. Honestly, out of the technically three, going to get into fourth, but we'll get into that, times that he's transformed in this movie, this one was my favorite. Man, the action in this was cool. You saw Blonsky show a little bit more of the effects of taking a part of the super soldier serum, which, man, that was brutal seeing him getting injected into the bone marrow. That just made me cry. Again, I know it's fake, but I hate needles normally, and just the
crunchy sound.
Stop. Stop. I don't want to have a cinnamon toast crunch. So anyway, I think this is my favorite part of the movie as far as the action sequence. Yes, we have another big fight later on. I like this one more, in my opinion. You had a combination of like the military using weapons, which still don't understand why they just kept using bullets when it was pretty clear it wasn't the case. I did love that, like, you not only saw Blonsky showcase some of his super soldier abilities, obviously more so his agility, easy for me to say because I'm getting crunchiness in my head. But like, I don't know, I just really like the motion behind it. He protects Betty at the end. I enjoy pretty much. This is probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite part of the movie.
This is also the part of the movie where we see the ultimate sit the fuck down move. Blonsky gets kicked in the face by the Hulk, and he gets sent 200 feet back.
I'm probably gonna chime. This will probably be the last time I chime in, unless you ask me for my input.
Well, that's why you're on the show.
Well, no, but I'm just saying where I'm really gonna give my input.
That's what we want.
It's one of those points where I don't give a fuck who you are. So my question is here's another flaw that I find with the movie. And I get it's fantasy. Don't
yeah, no, I got you.
Because when he is Bruce Banner, he can take getting hurt, right? Or he can't take getting hurt. So if he gets stabbed, he is stabbed.
Mm-hmm.
How many fucking bullets were shot at him in this whole thing? A 50 cal bullet? A 50 cal bullet can destroy armor.
Right.
How in the literal dog shit fuck can he withstand like 1,000 of them fucking things flying at him?
So one of the other powers, the Hulk has a combination of, it's not perfect, but, and it can be overtaxed, obviously. He does have, obviously, extreme durability, but also an insane healing factor. The best character I can compare it to is he has a healing factor almost close to Wolverine. Very close.
These bullets were bouncing off of him. They didn't penetrate his body.
Right.
So his body is essentially armor. No. It's skin. I don't care what you can't honestly, you can't justify it.
It's callous skin. It's like
it's skin. It's tough skin. Right. I get that. But you can still penetrate a rhino with the fucking a bullet at some point. Or an elephant, because they have really tough skin. Right. If that makes sense. But you can still, a 50 cal easily will penetrate a rhino or a elephant. So I mean, that's one of the flaws that I had. And then that supersonic thing, that would have ripped his body completely fucking apart.
Sound waves thingy.
Yeah, the sound blasters.
There's the flaw. There's another flaw that I can't overlook it. I can't suspend a belief for it. I just can't.
Well, I get it. It's from a different. I get it because you're looking at it from a different perspective and different experience than any of us have here on the panel, which I 100% agree or get, because it'd be like the equivalent of like, if we watched a movie that had like something wrestling involved and there was like, well, that wouldn't really happen, or for me anyway, but that's not. No, we wouldn't do. It's not not how you win a champion. You know what I mean? Like it's little, like it's I get where you're coming at, but Heather, you're saying that he had you said you liked it because it obviously had the favorite sit your ass down moment, and I'm assuming you're referring to the kick.
Yes, the kick to the face where he gets sent 200 feet back straight into a tree. It's like if that ain't a fucking shut your fucking mouth, motherfucker, and leave me alone move. I don't know what is.
It was funny what he said. He said, "Is that all you got?"
And, well,
and he just goes. He barely puts any pressure behind it. He just goes, eh.
I don't think 200 I think you don't even see the camera hit him. It's like it cuts away at the right moment. You just hear like it's fucking one of our Halo matchups. But no, Heather, I mean, given what we got, what'd you think of the scene overall? Any like takeaways aside from the kick heard around the world?
I think that's the one time in this movie where her father, Thunder Ross, finally understands, okay, maybe there is a point to controlling this thing, but I need to figure out how to do it in my own way and not let him do it his way.
So, Jurgen, again, if you did not hear what I said, and I'm sure, I hope you did, you got to remember, I'm looking at this from a perspective of not buying into these movies with the superhero stuff. Gamma rays #1 is actually going to kill somebody. Okay?
We'll get there.
I know, I'm sorry. But what I'm saying is you can have as tough a skin as you want, but a 50 cal bullet has been proven to destroy armor that everybody thought was penetratable.
Tim,
so you can't justify it. You can't justify that.
No, you good. Tim made a good point too. He goes, not to jump ahead, they do correct this issue in Ragnarok, which you're right, they do. So they do kind of adjust a little bit more in Ragnarok. We'll get into that later on, but I get your point. Rayshawn, your thoughts on this scene with the whole? I just personally liked it because of just the chaos, the angles, the creativity behind it. Like, yeah, we've seen the military hunt Hulk, but I think there was enough. You had the combination of like Betty being there and that end scene, the sit your ass down moment that Heather mentioned, and then I don't know, I thought it was more unique than the other stuff we've seen in at least the other Hulk movie.
It was a great action packed scene. We knew, at least I knew, that it was at some point that they were going to think about, oh, he might go and get in connection with Ross, because if you remember early in the movie, I forgot, I don't know the dude's name. The guy that got the guy that he hired though. The one that got slung to the tree.
Oh, the military guy. That is right. Emil Blonsky.
Blonsky, yeah.
Yep.
So he picked up the picture of Ross, and her father was like, "Oh, she's not an issue," or whatever the case may be. And then they end up going to the school where she worked at.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So she was the, issue. But it was an action-packed scene no matter what. And also the fact that he noticed the government trucks, and he told her to run as far as you can. And she stood there.
That was the funny thing to me, because she said, "You need to get as far away from me as possible. Run." And she just stood there, and he took the fuck off.
He took off.
It was fucking great.
That was funny. That was funny. I forgot about that part. You're right. You're like, run, and then he did, and she's like, "You're doing what you told me to do." Like, it's so stupid. Oh my god.
Also, he had the data. And when he was going through the school, just before he turned into the Hulk, he was forced to swallow it whole. I said what I said. He was forced to swallow it whole, and and then that's when he got caught in the like a little bridge of the school.
Yep.
And that's when he turned into the Hulk and all that.
Yep.
And and everything happened. Everything went south, which was a great scene.
So at this point, we're gonna jump ahead because there's a little bit of, there's a lot of lulls in this, which we'll talk about when we get to like the overall thoughts of it. So, we see Blonsky get severely injured. Hulk obviously takes Betty and they go on the run. He reverts back to Banner and they kind of they kind of have to travel to find Mr. Blue, the guy that Bruce was talking to at the very beginning about trying to find a cure, because at this point, now he has the data. He needs to find a way to, and he might finally have a way to finally cure this whole thing. And one thing to note, that previously he was very reluctant on sending Mr. Blue a blood sample, but before he was ambushed in Brazil, he did send Mr. Blue a blood sample to, of course, try to help expedite, possibly a cure, but he was very hesitant to do so because obviously the volatile nature of everything. So, we do see him ultimately meet up in New York City with a cellular biologist known as Dr. Samuel Sterns, who, if you're a big Marvel comic book nerd, you know who that is, and I'll mention that in just a second. He tells Banner that he has developed a possible antidote to Banner's condition, but we're not 100% sure how it's going. We don't know how it's going to go. We think it might go well. It looks like it's a cure, but he says he's not 100% sure because it could either just revert the one-time transformation or it could be a permanent cure. Not sure what's going to happen in either case. So they have to do a test. On the flip side of that, Blonsky immediately almost recovers after seeing him in complete, not able to move from the sit your ass down moment, the SYAD moment. Yes, I'm trying to condense it down to an anagram, the SYAD moment. And he heals miraculously, obviously a side effect from the super soldier serum. And we start to see a weird spine growing on the back of him, or his spine mutating. So it's kind of sort of ish working.
He also has beautiful abs too.
He does. He does. I'm not gonna disagree with you on that one. So at this point, we see Banner forcing a transformation, which I don't think electroshock therapy is really a smart way to do it, but trying to incite a transformation. Sterns uses the antidote and it suppresses the transformation after some help from Betty Ross. At this point, they're kind of talking more. He's like, I'm not sure if this is going to be a one-time deal or if it permanently cured you. But don't worry, we have other opportunities and other chances once we
all the other test subjects have died from this.
And he goes, what do you mean other test subjects? And at that point, it's revealed that Sterns has synthesized Banner's blood samples to create what I consider to be a fucking library of mutated versions or synthesized versions of his blood, which of course Bruce is like, fuck you doing? No, you need to destroy all this because you don't know how dangerous and how the military is trying to catch me. He's like, yeah, they're trying to cure you. Like, no, they're trying to weaponize me, you asshole. And of course, at this point, it's when he gets captured. Now, the one thing I will say is that I appreciated, even if it's a little anticlimactic, a little cliche, is that at this point, Bruce gets captured, and leading up into the final showdown, that's all I'm going to say so far, is we don't know if he's cured. We don't know if he's going to be. But I mean, again, you kind of see the writing on the wall here. Because there's a moment where he just gets decked and fucking pistol whipped by what's his name? By
Blonsky. What was his name? I don't...
God, I had my notes here and I lost my notes. I had my notes. Where is it? Blonsky. Yeah, it is Blonsky.
No, it's
he gets pistol whipped by Blonsky and nothing happens to him. So at this point, Blonsky then goes to Samuel Sterns and kind of is like, I kind of want his power, in the creepy sort of sweaty way that everybody who is psychopathic does. And Sterns obliges, basically saying, I want to try and, bulk up your power, even though I don't know what's in you, trying to take bits of Banner's blood and put it into Blonsky, transforming him into what we will later see as the Abomination. Also, during this whole chaotic moment, we see Sterns' head get cut open and some of Banner's blood falls into his brain, causing his brain to swell up because Samuel Sterns in the comics becomes the leader, which is a Hulk villain that has these super intelligent powers, we'll just say it at least. But of course we see...
Oh, sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say in the comics he's affiliated with the Red Hulk.
Yes, yep. So it's a little bit of an Easter egg.
What?
Could we? He's affiliated with the Red Hulk, which is another character, obviously, in the Hulk's line of different villains and alliances. Which
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
So at this point, Abomination's tearing through the city. Blonsky's now the Abomination, a mutated version or a meta version of the Hulk, tearing through the city, and Ross realizes, he's got that oh shit look on his face, and Banner basically says the only way you can stop him is if you send me, and he jumps out of a fucking helicopter because he wants to make sure that everybody else is safe. I thought this part was absolutely fucking hilarious. That's exactly what JP said. So we then, of course, get the moment that everybody's waiting for. He literally, it's not just that Edward Norton or Bruce Banner falls from the helicopter and lands on the ground. He goes through the concrete. Did anybody else like catch that? Like, it was just like,
yes, and come on.
He's not
1,500 pounds already. Come on, man. You don't. He's 145 pounds soaking fucking wet. There is no way that he puts that much damage on concrete. Listen, sorry. I don't buy.
I'm over 300 pounds, okay? And there's no way my fat ass is making that much of an impact on fucking concrete, let alone concrete in Harlem of all places. So just saying.
You essentially become just matter on the fucking concrete.
Mm-hmm. I become don't matter. It was just crazy. Shout out to a moral fat 40 ounce for popping in here. So the Edward Norton Hulk, I liked Liv Tyler in the final battle. The rest is a blur. When they throw down, fighting at the end was badass. We're actually getting that in just a second. And shout out to Jurgen. I didn't give Jurgen some love here earlier on in the chat. We'll get to you guys in a little bit. Tim says he would have been going close to terminal velocity. He's right. But anyway, of course, we get the final brawl. We see Hulk versus Abomination. Of course, what wouldn't it be if the Rosses weren't in trouble? The helicopter with Thunderbolt Ross and Betty Ross crashes.
Wait, before you continue, real quick, I want to piggyback on that. Him smashing through the ground.
Yeah,
the fact that he smashed through the ground as a human state, and then comes out as the Hulk,
right?
And then the people around him didn't even acknowledge what was happening when him coming out of the ground. I just wanted to say that.
I mean,
I would stand there for 30 seconds, and then they seen a guy that comes out with a fist the size of a fucking goddamn F-150. I'm not hanging the fuck around.
Let's just say this: civilians in the MCU can be dicks. And I just we'll get into this later on.
They can be the dumbest motherfuckers on the face of the earth.
It's going to be a thing, so we'll get more into that in a second, or later on in other movies. But anyway, of course, the big fight happens. The helicopter that are containing the Rosses engulfs them with fire. The only reason I bring this up is because we get to see one of Hulk's most signature abilities, which is the thunder clapping of the cheeks, where he blows the fire. And I actually said this in the stream, and Basement did too, where like, that wouldn't blow away the fire. It would have just blown the fire right into the helicopter where they were in there, and they would have incinerated him. But again, we just had Edward Norton's 150-pound ass soaking wet go through solid concrete, so I'll let it slide. Obviously, he beats up Abomination, chokes him out. Betty Ross says, don't kill him. He doesn't, kicks him over to the military, and he jumps away into his to be living happily ever after. Now, there's a couple things before we get into there's two little tiny things at the end, or three actually, before we get into the overall arcs. First off, the fight between Abomination and Hulk, kind of underwhelming. I don't know about you guys. I felt a little like, not that we didn't see it coming, and I gotta say this. Kevin Feige, one of the things he said about this movie, and the reason they wanted to do this movie, and they specifically picked Abomination, is because they wanted to have a villain that could be treated like a threat to the Hulk, which I understand and can appreciate 110%, because, like we said before, you have the military chasing Hulk. It's kind of like, okay, well, there's not...
A 30-year-old chasing a 20-year-old.
Right. So, I mean, I sort of get that. But really, I don't know. This felt really, really underwhelming. I don't know about you guys. I'll throw it to Heather, Rayshawn, JP.
Let me say this right now. Yep. I now understand where they got the idea for Vander and Vi for Arcane. Watching this movie, when the Hulk tore the police car in half and put it on his hands like boxing gloves.
Oh yeah.
Arcane now makes sense to me.
Uh-huh.
I mean, there wasn't really any besides the thunderclap part and that scene with the police cars. It's not like there were even like cool moments in the fight. Like, I could appreciate a fight not being that great if there was a couple of little like moments or gems here, but I felt like there really wasn't
The Hulk got basically what it broke down to is Hulk got 2 hits on Abomination. Abomination threw Hulk around, and then all of a sudden, Ross decided to tell one of his gunners to open up fire after Hulk was thrown into an apartment building. And then it was helicopter chasing Abomination while Hulk tried to play catch up.
Yeah, it just
very little. There was actually very little interaction with them until the last 5 minutes of that scene.
Yeah.
But one thing that I will say is Abomination could talk right away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hulk didn't say one fucking word. He just growled like or roared like a fucking lion.
Right.
And the one thing that I do like, and it's one of those things that and I don't pay attention to the comic, but I do know that he used to say Hulk smash. And they did reference that, and that was a good point of reference that they did that. And I know Rachel wants. I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah.
Where all of a sudden Abomination can talk, but Hulk really can't. What the kind of stupid shit was that?
Even in the DC Lego comic game, Abomination spoke pretty much the same as Hulk, whereas Abomination in the movie is speaking perfect sentences. It's like, it's not adding up.
So the only caveat, the only like bullshit explanation I can give on that, and it's a stretch because they don't mention it outright, is because and it's the only thing I can think and piece together to it, just from what I've seen, is because Hulk and Abomination they didn't get the powers the exact same way. Banner was normal, for lack of a better word, and got the gamma radiation and blah blah blah. You have to remember that Roth or Blonsky had the super soldier serum in him, so you have that mixed with Hulk's blood. So in theory, and that's another thing too, is that Hulk, depending on the Jesus, the comics are a fucking mess. Depending on the depending on the writer, the version, the time, the moment, the event, Hulk there's a smart Hulk version. There's a version of Hulk that has like that can speak fluid sentences. There's a version of Hulk who's like a caveman that can speak sentences, but like kind of like the Hulk smash and like, puny Banner and all that. Yeah. The Tarzan yeah, exactly. So it just kind of depends, but I do see what JP was mentioning and what you guys are saying about, like, at least he said the Hulk smash line, which is like, hey, that's all we want. Give us that good stuff. You know what I mean? But go ahead, Rachel. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
I actually don't mind the Hulk not speaking at all in this film.
Agreed.
I'm glad that they did that, and they waited all the way close to the end of the film to say Hulk smash, just like what they did. How many Avengers movies we had before they said Avengers Assemble? It's he only said it once. He only said it once, and that was in Endgame. And I know everybody who watched the cartoons or comics, Avengers
their tagline, Avengers Assemble.
Right. So why give it to us now, like so soon? You know what I'm saying? And I feel like if they allow the Hulk to talk, he probably would have overdid it. That just I'm
right there with you. I totally agree with you on that. I see what you're saying. So at that point, there's a couple things I did want to mention with this. Of course, we have 3 scenes that I want to talk about before we wrap up here, and then we'll talk about the overall discussion. 2 of them happen in the movie, and the last one is actually a deleted scene, but it does kind of carry on into the future and also gives you a more. It's actually something JP mentioned on the stream. We were watching it yesterday. So, of course, the very last scene we see Banner. He's hiding out in like a forest, like wildered, secluded area. And you see him trying to control his temper, or trying to control his heart rate again, and essentially control the anger. And you see that he has his green eyes lit up, but he's smiling. So the implication is that he is in control of what's going on, or at least he has a better control of what's going on. Because at this point he knows there's probably no cure. That's probably the way it's going to go. The deleted scene is something that's not shown in the movie, but I think it's pivotal to understand things, is that there's actually a scene where he's out like in the Arctic and he has a gun, and he gets so low to the point where he actually tries to shoot himself and kill himself. But Hulk transforms and crushes the gun before he can do any self-harm to himself. which is interesting because it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier about the concept of like, well, yeah, he's human, but the Hulk personality or the Hulk side of him won't let any harm come. It's a weird dynamic.
Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde situation.
And yeah, there's specifics and loopholes and circumstances where it's like, well, if he's sleeping, I could shoot him in the head and he'd be dead. Yeah, okay, yeah, absolutely. But it's just I thought it was a very interesting scene to just kind of point out again the whole dynamic of, like Heather said, the Jekyll and the Hyde situation. But of course, the big one is the end credit scene where we see Thunderbolt Ross drinking at a bar, stressed out about the entire situation, not knowing where the hell Banner is, and in walks in none other Rayshon's favorite character, Tony Stark. Saying, that super soldier serum was put on ice for a reason, which I thought that was a funny line looking into the future, but I digress.
That was funny.
It was.
That was
cute.
funny.
Yeah.
It was cute.
Yeah.
Because he said it.
Yeah, Wendy thought so too. So, of course, Ross says, you have such nice suits. And of course, he says, what if I told you we were putting a team together? He goes, who's we? And there you go. Obviously, once again, referencing the Avengers initiative that we saw from the first Iron Man movie. So, overall, the Incredible Hulk movie. This one's tough. I definitely don't think this is better than Iron Man. Although Iron Man has a lot of tough shoes to fill because, again, as far as the first one, but I feel like this movie was very, very slow.
There were a lot of points in this movie where it was a lot more talking and absolutely nothing happening.
Yeah.
And it was talking not even about the situation with Hulk. It was just talking in general.
Right.
I think they were trying to do character development
Mm-hmm.
and a little bit less. They were trying to build the Bruce Banner character and not the Incredible Hulk character.
Right.
I think that, and I will wholeheartedly agree with you. This is better than the first one, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Way fucking better.
Yep.
I think it's still Edward Norton does a pretty good job as Bruce Banner. He does better in my eyes, he does better as the Incredible Hulk. Because Mark Ruffalo, like I said, don't touch me like that. I'm just so sensitive, especially later on in the movies.
We'll get there when we get there.
I enjoyed it because it did have a lot of callbacks.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
It had Bill Bixby, who played Bruce Banner in the original.
Yep.
It had Lou Ferrigno in it.
Yep.
Which I admire to the utmost because, I mean, that's what I thought the Incredible Hulk was. Lou Ferrigno, why they didn't give him a shot at playing the actual Incredible Hulk, I don't know. I understand why.
Partially deaf.
Yes, he is partially deaf, which is why he talks the way he does. But I like the movie. I'm not gonna say it's bad, but it's better than most of these kinds of movies. But the problem is they do more character development than actual Incredible Hulk stuff.
So I think that you're right, JP. I think that that's a big part of it is that, a lot of these Marvel movies and Marvel movies get, especially later on, accused or labeled of having the same formula. It works better or worse. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And, it's tough when you have a lot of Marvel heroes and a lot of Marvel movies that rely on action, right? And here's a character who is almost the opposite of that idea, where you have like a character who's trying to not be a hero and not be what, the Hulk and be this over the top person. So I to that I agree.
So here's why I say what I say. The Incredible Hulk is the only one that changes into something, correct?
Technically,
So
yes.
far, yeah. Oh, you're talking about like a transformation.
Actually transforming full body and character.
I have to think about all the fucking Avengers leading up to this point.
I'm talking about all the main ones. Like
Yep.
Character development with them, I can completely understand. Them doing, because they are playing that. I mean, yes, Bruce Banner is playing the Incredible Hulk, or is the Incredible Hulk. But like you guys have been saying, and it's just Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, when he transforms into the Hulk, he doesn't know he's Bruce Banner.
Right.
Yep.
So there really shouldn't have been much character development except for when he was Bruce Banner. But he was Bruce Banner more in this movie than he should have been. He should have been the Incredible Hulk in a lot more of it. Because it's called the Incredible Hulk. It's not, hey, we're going to introduce Bruce Banner movie.
Right. It's not like Bruce Banner featuring the Incredible. Yeah, I get what you're coming at. Yeah. I mean, Heather, you kind of was starting on that same idea too, where it's like it was very low. I mean, did that take away from your enjoyment of it?
I didn't really enjoy this movie too. Go over to Daddy. Go on. I didn't really fully enjoy this movie as much as I enjoyed others that we're going to be seeing.
Yeah.
I didn't hate it.
It took away from it because this movie is supposed to be about his journey as the Hulk.
Right.
The continued journey of him as the Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
I understood the training scenes where he's trying to control the anger and trying to keep all that in check.
I actually like that.
Trying to keep all of that in check, both at the beginning and at the end. Because it does push us towards Mark Ruffalo's Hulk, where he's that line, you know, I'm always angry.
Right.
So it does push us in that direction, and in a more feasible way than him just, you know, I figured it out, you know.
Yep.
This one's a hard one for me to judge because I did enjoy it. I enjoyed the story of it, the continued portion of it anyway.
Yeah,
But there's just a lot of holes in it that it's just like it drags it down to the point. And I'm not even talking about, you know, the scientific gaps and all that. I'm just talking like just the basic overall story of Eric Bana and the Hulk.
Oh my God, she did it again.
So it didn't stop me from enjoying the movie as much as I could.
Right.
But I did not fully enjoy it as I have enjoyed others.
That's fair.
So if I'm going to give this out of 10 for me.
How about you wait until he asks?
Okay. Sorry.
It's okay. You kind of, I think you guys are pretty much hitting the nail on the head. So I'm gonna throw it over Rayshawn. I mean, I think that.
Oh, you see, Frank puts it in the chat here. He's saying it's not a sequel, but then why did they show scenes from?
So Frank's right is that it's kind of, it's a weird gray area. So it when I say it, how do I say this the right way? Technically, it's not a sequel to the Ang Lee movie. That being said, it could also be. You know what I mean? It's a very weird gray area as far as the placement of this. Regardless, I'm throwing this over to Rayshawn at this point, but like I'm kind of in the same boat of like this is one of those ones, and we've talked about this before. It's really hard to judge these movies on their own without knowing or without taking into consideration what we know is going to happen in the future. So on its own, I appreciate the building of the idea of Bruce and his development and all that, but on the flip side, it's tough to kind of get invested. It's almost like it's a Hulk movie that's not about the Hulk, but it features the Hulk.
That's all I'm saying, and I think Frank's misunderstanding me. Yes, there needed to be character development. However, It's the Incredible Hulk. It's not Bruce Banner featuring the Incredible Hulk.
It's a weird thing because it's like, yeah, they're the same. But anyway, but Ray Sean, I'm gonna throw it over to you. I want to hear your feedback on this thing. Like, are you kind of in the same boat, or is it kind of mixed bag?
It's mixed with me. Yes and no, and y'all make some great points. As I'm keep hearing, because my the way I'm thinking about it, it's changing. But yes, I understand that this is the Incredible Hulk. However, there is some without Banner, there's no Hulk. So we
Right.
needed to know who is Banner. Why is Banner this way? How he got his powers and blah blah blah. It's Banner, 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 Banner. Once we get that origin, once we get that story and understanding, and then we could focus on the Hulk. There's nothing really we could talk or they can't really say anything about the Hulk. He's a big monster that everybody's scared of because they don't understand him. You know what I'm saying? So it's like
good point.
You have to understand the guy behind it, and that's why Roth changed his perception of the guy. They was the guy in the helicopter was like, oh, who do we save, or who do we help? Help the green one. Remember, it's all about killing the green one before. Now it's saving the green one. You know what I'm saying? So it's like
Right.
he had to have that Bruce Banner understanding. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So the problem is, and I keep seeing this, they didn't do an origin story. Well, then do the origin story. If there needs to be 2 movies, then fucking do 2 movies. Don't just fucking give us Bruce Banner who turns into the Incredible Hulk. I understand that there needed to be character development. I am not shitting on that one bit. There was too much Bruce Banner and not enough Incredible Hulk in this movie. That's all I'm saying.
Now let me tell you something. If you notice, yes, you're correct. There's so much Bruce Banner, but later on, and I know Conor hates that we bring it up the future, but like in the Thor films, they use the Hulk to like give you like a little story for the Hulk. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like
Supporting character, yeah.
Right. The questions that y'all having about the Hulk and more stories is later on in the future, and they just cram everything at once in one film. So I could understand where you coming from, like, oh, they should have made a second film. I mean, maybe because the other film didn't do much, and this film didn't do much in box office, so I guess it didn't make sense for them to do another film. But I agree with you. Like it should have been like a 2 film. So it's like, okay, if you want one film to be about Bruce Banner, turn into the Hulk, fine, and then the next film all about the Hulk. But they tend to do that in the future, like mostly in the Thor films.
Now I'm going to throw this out there. So I did do a quick little search through to see if see what see what the internet says and get more details about it. And I guess technically speaking, it is not a sequel to the Ang Lee Hulk movie. However, it kind of lines up a lot with the characters, specifically some of the actors and actresses, and the fact that, hey, at the end of the Ang Lee movie, he ends up in South America. What are the odds? It kind of like all lines up in the same way. That being said, before we get into the rating of this, I'm going to throw this question out. Now, again, taking a little out of consideration what we know is going to happen with the Hulk character in the MCU. Would you want to see another Hulk movie, solo Hulk movie? B, what, like, generally speaking, and I know I'm putting people on the spot, I'm trying to think of like a pitching a movie on the spot here. What would you like to see from a standalone Hulk movie? And C, big question here is, would this idea be good with Ruffalo taking over?
You could work it that way. If you sit there and work it out that this next movie is like a year or 2 after that end scene of him in the hut in the forest with the green eyes. If you make it like a year or 2 after that and he's still in that forest, you could make it work.
What if you did one after the events of the first Avengers movie?
That would be a little more difficult because
Okay,
that's huge. That is a big time gap between Edward Norton in the Woods.
So you're saying you would want to do one before Avengers 1, but obviously after this one.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, I'm just spitballing this idea. You know, what would you guys would you like to see from that? Anything, you know, in terms of a Hulk movie.
If I will, to answer your question, yes, I would like to see another Hulk movie, not knowing the future.
Right.
Why? Because they never tied up the loose ends that they had with the leader. I want to see the leader becomes what he become. I want them to I want the Hulk to I want the interaction. You know, I want the interaction, I want the story development within that film alone.
Right. Okay. So
we discussed that at the very beginning, Frank.
Yes, yeah, Frank, I understand. Yeah, we did talk about the fact that that there can't be a standalone one because of Universal. We're just throwing a pitch of like in a perfect situation, in a perfect world, if you had if the ability was there and every, you know, stars aligned, what would you like to see from a standalone Hulk movie? I think personally, if we're gonna go on a character development tirade, and this is kind of cliche, and you have to think the logic behind it would be, I mean, shit, we're throwing fucking logic out the window at this point anyway, so fuck it, let's go balls to the wall at this point, and I can't wait for JP to watch Doctor Strange. This is bear with me on how to say, I would like to see Bruce get separated from the Hulk physically, and he has to understand that in order for, like, there's aspects of both characters that work solo, but they obviously work better together, and he has to take that, you know what I mean? Again, this is a little bit of, I'm cheating a little bit knowing what we're gonna get in the future, but it would help understand the concept of like the relationship between the Hulk and Bruce Banner more than it just being of, oh, I turn into this thing. No, there's actually a personality behind the Hulk. Let's dive into that a little bit more.
That sounds like a Venom story.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's been done a million fucking times for a different million characters, but
also with the Hulk situation, if that being is separated, would he be Cure?
Well, I would probably do something in the sense of like, something's wrong on both sides, where there's an innate weakness to Hulk that he wouldn't get because he doesn't have Banner, and vice versa. Besides,
he wouldn't be smart enough to realize what he was doing.
Or some sort of innate flaw that in essence it's like, well, it makes more sense if we were to be together again. You know what I mean? And yeah, it's there's a shit ton of, like you said, Venom himself is also another one that's like, you know, oh yeah, like Jurgen said, like Hulk versus Thor. There's a bunch of different versions of that, but that would just be me, just because it would explore more of, hey, it's not just me transforming into a monster. There's actually more to the Hulk character than just, because I think that's what we all said here, is that it's like, it's Bruce Banner featuring, it's like the Incredible Hulk starring Bruce Banner featuring the Hulk, but really about Bruce. So it's a weird dynamic on that one. But Heather, JP, I mean, what would you guys like to see out of it? I mean, would you like to see more of like, you know, like the Rachel, I'm going to put point, we had the leader referenced as an Easter egg in this one. Would there be, I mean, again, generally speaking, and would you prefer, would it be like, would this make the Ruffalo transition a little easier? Easier for me to say.
I'm just gonna. So here's the thing: we see Batman.
Mm-hmm.
And I know this is a completely different.
Yeah.
We see Batman. We see all of his arch enemies. There's a reason why I would like to see another. I'm probably stealing Heather's thunder again. Okay, good, because every time I've been
I saw something fall over.
I've been stealing a lot of her thunder. I would like to see. I didn't know he had Red Hulk. I didn't know. Now the Stearns guy. I didn't know these things.
Right.
I want to see more of his arch enemies and who he fights. If they're going to do it, I mean, Disney is ultimately they're going to get a hold of it. They will buy universe. They will say, okay, well, we're going to give you this amount of money because we want to make these movies. We want to make it exclusively, and we could probably make it better. We'll give you a cut of it. They're gonna cut that deal at some point, and it's going to happen. I want to. I keep hearing about this Red Hulk, Gray Hulk, She-Hulk. Like, if they're going to do it, just go all out with it. Give me another damn Hulk movie so I can see more of the. I'm not about the villains.
But without the villains, you don't have the story.
Without the villains, who is the Incredible Hulk? Who's going to beat the Incredible Hulk at any given time? Star Wars. This is why Star Wars is one of my favorite. You know who the villain is. You know what has to happen. You know what needs to. Yeah. This is why the issue with Marvel Comics is they're all about the centric characters, and they don't give a shit about anything else.
Right.
That's the problem I have with Marvel, to the be and all of everything. Oh, fuck, Iron Man's the shit. Is he, though? He should be dead within the first 45 minutes of the fucking movie.
If I could just piggyback Captain on America. What he was saying. I'm sorry?
Yeah, Captain America, dead within the first 45 minutes of the fucking movie. They're going to die. Now, they do give us their arch enemies, but I want to see more of it. Well, make me see why these guys are doing what they're doing. That's what I want.
Yeah, real quick, Rayshawn, before you go in, and then I want to get to Heather too. That is a big complaint about a lot of these early Marvel movies, especially as the villains are weak. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
He was basically saying what I was saying, like the Gray Hulk, the She-Hulks, the Red Hulks. You had the original Hulk in that film. He could be one of the Gray, or he could be a Hulk. Miss Ross, Betty Ross, she could be She-Hulk. Somehow she could, get some gamma accidentally. She becomes She-Hulk, and she probably feel what, I don't know, anybody. I don't, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
JP's. I get you, man. Yeah. I agree.
What were we gonna say, Heather? Sorry, getting back to you.
No, it's if they were able to do another standalone Hulk movie, I would, just like you, Connor, I want to see Banner separated from the Hulk to see if it's Banner that is the moral compass for Hulk, or if the Hulk has his own moral compass.
So I was sorry, just real quick. That was one more point that I was going to put out. The moral compass. They tried doing that with Mark Ruffalo's Hulk. If you think about it. Go ahead.
So, and and again, since Ruffalo is the current Hulk, it would make the most sense to have him come in and replace Norton. But I would, just like you guys, I want to see more of the supervillains, because you're not going to have any superhero. It does not matter who that superhero is. Batman, Superman, Captain America, fucking Marvin the Martian. You're not going to have that kind of a superhero without knowing who they're fighting against.
Right.
And what they're trying to save.
Correct.
And so far, all we have is Abomination. All we have is Abomination, Thanos, and all the other supervillains.
Yep. But we don't have all of them.
Exactly. We only.
Right.
It's like there is so much more that they could be diving into. Yeah. That doesn't even necessarily have to be, Sony's problem or Universal's problem or Disney's problem. I mean, Disney has enough of its own content within the Marvel universe that they have the rights to currently that they could expand.
So Avengers Endgame should not have happened.
Well,
is what I'm saying.
Well, not only that, I mean, to piggyback off what Heather just said, she's right. Even before like the Fox acquisition, before the deal with Spider-Man and Sony, the Marvel superheroes, every superhero that they had the rights to, has a rogues gallery that is pretty wide and pretty deep. Maybe not as deep as Batman's and I think Spider-Man has the best, or the most prolific rogues gallery in comparison to everybody else.
Yes.
But that's not to say that they don't have a shit ton. Captain America specifically, it comes to mind in terms of like the vastness of. But anyway, we're getting. But I'm digressing. I'm agreeing with everybody. So that being said, let's put it to a vote and let's talk turkey. You know, again, and I know Frank mentioned this in the first one in the chat. You know, obviously we're not holding a gun to anybody's head as far as a rating system. It's just a fun little thing to just kind of get more of, you know, the mindset behind who's on the round table. And of course, love to hear your thoughts on it. And Frank did make a good point that I didn't want to mention before is, you know, your thoughts and feelings on a movie can change over time. You're absolutely right. They could be better or worse depending on how you want to look at it. But just, again, fun little thing to just throw out there. So, rating out of 10, I'm going to start with Rayshon on this one. 1 out of 10, or scale of 1 to 10. What would you rate The Incredible Hulk?
I rate it a solid 6, a low 6.5.
All right, so 6 between 6.5. Not too shabby. Heather, a scale of 1 to 10. Oh, and I think we just got a new subscriber. I just got a new alert here.
Jeez. Much appreciated.
I just got I didn't see the alert pop up. I apologize. Let me see if I can pull it up here. But while you guys are discussing, Heather, scale of 1 to 10, what would you rate? I
am about 5.56 on this because it's an hour and a half long movie that felt like it was 2.5 hours.
Wasn't it only? I thought it was a 2-hour movie.
It was just.
It's around there.
Closer to 1.5, closer to 1.5 than 2 hours. Yeah, it was definitely a long one. JP, how about yourself?
I know, but it felt like it was a full-length 2-hour movie. It was just like, yeah.
How about you, JP?
It actually moved quickly for me. The first time I've seen this version of the Hulk, I thought it was going to be the other version, which I can agree. I think that was a 2-hour movie, and it was. I would like to get I'll put it to you like this. The first Hulk movie, I would much rather watch fucking Nia Jax wrestle or watch it. No, I'm not even gonna give it that.
Yeah.
That first movie was almost as bad, if not worse, than fucking Dream Warriors.
Oh.
Ooh.
This one, I enjoyed it. So this is the first time I've seen it. I'm actually going to give it a 6.5, low 7, because I enjoyed the action. I understand the story, that it's fake and it's just fantasy. I get that.
Right.
But if I watch it again, I'm pretty sure it'll drop even lower. The only thing that I will say is that if you're going to do it, and I mentioned this earlier with the military kind of things that they did in this movie.
Yep.
If you're going to do that, please make it believable. Because I'm sitting here watching, it's the very first thing I pointed out. And military men and women, they need a release from shit. And I can tell you right fucking now, we sat down and watched movies like this, or we watched, like the what's the movie with Jeremy Renner where he's the fucking bomb guy?
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I get.
We're sitting there watching this fucking movie like, that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. That don't happen. Everything in this movie was bullshit. It was just really good acting, and it brought the emotion out in you, and you can understand that, but you're seeing flaws in movies, and it kind of takes you away from you. Please start fucking making it look like it should. Don't give me this bullshit. Well, we needed it to Hollywood. I don't give a fuck.
No, that's a fair point. That's a fair point. And thanks to
6.5, low 7. 6.5, low 7.
Thanks to Hot Mail Boy for the subscribe and who's in the chat. Thank you so much for the subscribe. Gotta love that name. Hot Mail Boy. It's fantastic. And thank you, Frank, for Frank also said the Ang Lee movie has grown on me over the years, but the MCU Hulk is better in my opinion. I think we generally came to that same agree. I'm right there with you guys. I think that it's a double-edged sword because on one hand, the Hulk is the Hulk. There's not, at least at this point in time, there's not much to dive into the Hulk persona other than big green monster with zucchini fingers go to smash and finger bang your girl. But
I forgot about that.
on the flip side of that, you have to, like, Bruce is really where the character developments go in relationship to how he sees the Hulk and how he perceives the Hulk at that time. I think the story was infinitely better than the Ang Lee one. I think that, you know, as eye rolling and as Abomination wasn't as exciting for me personally as far as a final fight, I think the military one in the university in the open field made up for that. So I'm gonna go with the 6.5 as well. I think it was a little bit above like a standard like halfway point of a 5, but it didn't have enough to get me like up there, further up there. So I think 6.5 is probably the highest I would rank this one personally, in my opinion. But yeah, we're 2 movies down. We're now into the thick of the MCU, and we got some fun stuff coming your way here on the Horny Goat. So if you guys haven't subscribed to the Horny Goat YouTube channel, make sure you subscribe right away, youtube.com/Horny Goat, just like Hot Mail Boy did there. Let us know your thoughts on the Incredible Hulk movie in the comments, or hit us up on social media. We're also on the Twitter at the Horny Goat 1. You can follow all of our sexy faces over on social media. Heather, Rayshawn, JP, last minute thoughts about the Incredible Hulk movie before we wrap things up here.
Overall,
I'm glad it's over, but I'm not really excited for what's coming in 2 weeks.
What's that?
I'm excited.
Well, yeah, you're excited, Rayshawn? You sure?
I'm sitting out.
I can't wait to shit on this one.
So
you guys already know what the first thing that's going to be coming out of my mouth with this one, because of a certain person that's in it, but...
So that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and join us next time here on the Marvel Roundtable when we discuss the first Marvel MCU movie that is now officially a Disney property, and also the first sequel in the MCU. We're going to be talking about Iron Man 2. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time right here on the Marvel Roundtable.